Okay, in this last video, I'm going to go over least common multiple, LCM. Don't forget, multiples are the product of any number and any other whole number. So, product of 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3, 4 times 4, 4 times 5. So these are called the multiples of 4. When we're looking for least common multiple, it is the smallest multiple more than 2 or more numbers have in common. There's 2 ways to find least common multiple, and if you recall from class, I said each one is just as good as the other. It depends on the situation. Where greatest common factor, it's a little bit different. I prefer prime factorization for greatest common factor, but least common multiple, either listing or prime factorization works. So let's say we're looking for the least common multiple of the numbers 20 and 16. Okay. One way to find the least common multiple of 20 and 16 would be to list them. So 20 times 1, 20 times 2, times 3, 4, times 5, okay. And then list my multiples of 16, 16 times 1. And then I can just add 16 to get to the next multiple, because that would be 16 times 2. I add 16 again, and again, and again, and so on. Those are my multiples of 16. I'm looking for the least common multiple. It's the smallest multiple that 20 and 16 have in common, and that would be 80. So 80 is the least common multiple of 20 and 16. A little bit, when the numbers are a little larger than what we're used to working with as far as our multiplication facts are concerned, it can be a little more time consuming when we have to do the addition to get to the next multiple. As I said, there is another way to find least common multiple, and that's through prime factorization. So using the same 2 numbers, just so we can compare that the answer will still be the same. All right, do my factor trees, composite, I circle it. If it's prime, I break it down into 2 more factors. Okay, so my prime factorization for 20 is equal to 2 times 5. And my prime factorization for 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. And then, just like greatest common factor, a 1-to-1 pair for each of the common prime factors. And just as before, you take 1 for each of the pairs. So if I stopped here and I multiply 2 times 2, that would be 4, and that's the greatest common factor of 20 and 16. Well, there's one more step with least common multiple, and that is to take all the other numbers that did not get multiplied, and that should be a 2. All the other numbers that did not get multiplied, and multiply them also. So 2 times 5 times that 2. Okay, so that's 8. 8 times 5 is 40, and 40 times 2 equals 80. That's our least common multiple. And if we look on the other side, again, when we listed them, we also had 80 for our least common multiple. Okay. Slight drawback having to add, or we're dealing with numbers a little bit outside of our multiplication facts. So we end up having to add, go from one multiple to the next, one multiple to the next. And then here, don't forget, it's 1 number for each of the pairs multiplied by everything else that did not get paired up. And that's how we find least common multiple for 2 numbers.